the program at a later time on AERP California YouTube channel. So please click Got It when it appears on your screen. Earlier this year, AERP and the National Alliance for Caregiving released a study that reveals the rapidly evolving landscape of caregiving that now includes 6 million Americans, nearly a 50% increase since 2015. This surge underscores the growing demand for family caregivers who provide support for loved ones. 1 in 4 adults is a caregiver, and 29% of those folks are of the sandwich generation, meaning that they're supporting children as well as adults. 7 in 10 family caregivers are employed, and many caregivers are engaged in high-intensity care, meaning more complex medical tasks like administering injections or managing equipment. As they say, caregiving is not for the faint of heart, which makes caregivers so very, very special. These are people who are there for the good parts, but they're also there for the hard parts, the good, the bad, and sometimes the really bad times. Today's program is about a group of people who chose to care for a dear friend, how they worked together, how they had to be innovative and creative in caring for Phyllis while maintaining her dignity and her spirit, and what caregiving means to them. But first, let's get to know Phyllis Lyon.
Yeah. Baby, don't make me spell it out for you. All of the feelings that I got for you can't be explained, but I can try for you. Yeah, baby, don't make me spell it out for you. You keep on asking me the same questions. Why? And second guessing all my intentions. Should know by the way I use my compression that you got the answers to my confessions. It's like I'm powerful with a little bit of tender and emotional, sexual bender. Mess me up, yeah, but no one does it better. There's nothing better. That's just the way you make me feel. 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 So good, so good, so fucking real. That's just the way you make me feel. That's just the way you make me feel. That's just the way you make me feel. You make me feel so good, so fucking real. So good, so good, yeah. That's just the way you make me feel. So good. That's just the way you make me feel.
Oh, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. So now we know a little bit about Phyllis, the activist, the pioneer, and the inspiration for so many in the LGBTQI plus community. But her story doesn't stop there. We're delighted today to have some special people here to talk about Phyllis and her friends that helped her through this final chapter. Deb Svoboda, and I'm sure I just massacred that name. I apologize. Cinematographer, editor, and caregiver. Deb is currently in the final editing of the film the day the curtains came down, and will be sharing an excerpt from that film later in our program. Joining Deb is Dottie Lux, one of Phyllis's caregivers and artist, and Carrie Schell, Director of Community Support Services at Open House, and Phyllis's first caregiver and care team manager, which in a while you'll discover why there needed to be a care team manager. Welcome, ladies, and thank you for being here with us. Can you briefly tell us about how you came to know Phyllis in the first place, and a little bit about how and why she came to need caregiving? Maybe something about her diagnosis would be helpful as well.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So I came into Phyllis's life because one of my friends had been on the board of Lion Martin, the clinic that folks were inspired to create because of Phyllis and Dell's work. And I had experience in social services and care work. And so I was asked by that friend if I was interested in being a caregiver part-time for Phyllis. And so I met with her friends. She had this group of very dear friends that were trying to keep everything together as she started to show signs of dementia,
Mm.
and had an interview with them. And the idea at that time was that the the story was that I was going to be introduced as a friend and not a caregiver, because historically, when they had tried to get her caregivers, she wasn't interested. They weren't her people in a lot of ways. They were great individuals, but just not her people. And so they knew that she needed culturally competent care with other people in the LGBT community surrounding her as she aged and went through this dementia story. So
Got
I
it.
came on as her
Dottie,
first caregiver, and then we eventually, as she
you,
needed more care, created the team.
got it. How did you become involved, Dottie?
I mean, Phyllis is gamous, so I knew who she was since I was a little baby gay. And a mutual friend of Carrie's and myself thought of me as someone who could take on more caregiving shifts.
Yeah,
And I met Carrie and Phyllis and tried not to be too starstruck. I was uh, able to join the team and super grateful for every moment I got to share with Phyllis and continue to share with the individuals who had similar experience to mine.
and Deb, I know that you're the cinematographer, but you are also a caregiver for Phyllis. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I've been friends with Carrie for a long time, and I've been a nanny on and off, like when I was in college. And Carrie had offered me or suggested it several times that I help with Phyllis, and I didn't think I could do the pretending and the stuff that we needed to do. And finally, I gave in, and so I started a year and a half before she passed away. So I was one of the later ones. And I was able to get footage. I was able to talk with her family and get footage of her in that last year and a half.
That's great. That's great. Um, as we talked before, Phyllis was remarkably fortunate to have not one, not two, not three, but many, a whole team of people who cared for her. Do you know, could you tell us how many caregivers she had in total?
She had
And
about 12
12. Thus
over
the
the
care.
course of the eight
Yeah,
years that I was around.
yeah. And so how did you organize all this care? And the comment earlier about friends visiting really struck a chord with me, and I would imagine it does with others as well. So how did you organize all that?
Yeah, so I was her only caregiver for about a year and a half, and then it was clear that she needed more care. She started to have more um, falls at home or moments where she was in her confusion was increased. And so I asked people in the community, because I knew that, it has to be such a trusted person to be in her home with her, to have access to her for 24-hour care. And so I knew that the only way that it would work is that every person
Mhm.
was known by someone else on the caregiver team. And so that's how we ended up doing it.
Got it. And Dottie, did you mention earlier that you had been a caregiver before or not?
I haven't,
Okay.
but since I continue to be a caregiver.
Yeah, yeah. It's skills and things that you learn right there and then that can take you forward, I think, for probably the rest of your life. Yes.
Particularly this situation, or the situation with Phyllis, was like a combination of my very obscure, fabulous skills that don't work or, serve much purpose in a lot of scenarios.
Mhm.
But I really feel like Phyllis and I were, or this work or this
Mhm.
thing that we're able to provide is kind of uniquely matched to my showmanship and good heart.
I should let the audience know that I've had an opportunity to view part of the film. And one of the things that I was struck with was that someone made the comment that about uncommon kindness. And it seems to me that that probably is something that applies to all three of you and the other 9 folks that help with the care. Yes, yeah. So I'm wondering if any of you ever came to the point where you thought that nursing home care might be a better solution for her, given her dementia.
No.
I think it would be impossible, to tell you the truth, um, and not in line with what Phyllis saw for
Hmm.
herself.
Hmm.
And Phyllis was worthy of a lot of respect. So I think that in order to do that, having her leave her home in any capacity or any type of new venue
Hmm.
would not have worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so many LGBTQ people feel like they have to go back into the closet in long-term care
Hmm.
because of discrimination.
Right.
They, particularly when they're Black, Indigenous, or folks of color. And so, but for Phyllis in specifically, it would not have gone well for her. I think that her trajectory would have been much shorter.
Hmm. So over 10 years ago, the indie film Gen Silence by the Clowder Group shared the challenges that the gay community face as they age and finding appropriate and compassionate care. So maybe each of you could say a little bit about that reality today and what it is that folks in the community face regarding nursing home care or any long-term care for that matter.
Yeah, I
Dottie, you
think,
want to, or
go ahead, Dottie.
Carrie, go ahead.
Either one. Go ahead, Dottie, if you wanted to say something.
I mean, I think Carrie, you're probably more qualified to speak on this.
Yeah, I mean, just as I was, saying before, a lot of people experience the effects of homophobia and transphobia in long-term care. People get misgendered, people are not seen, and that experience continues to get
Yeah.
worse in many places and not better.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that I don't think most people dream of going to long-term care. I think it's a necessity for some. For many LGBTQ plus people, we don't have children or family members that we're connected to that can care for us. And
Hmm.
so, if it takes a lot of money to get 24-hour care in your home, and not everybody has that
Yes.
privilege. And so a lot of people do end up in long-term care.
Mhm.
There are organizations that send volunteers out to folks in long-term care to reduce isolation and loneliness, and open houses one of those organizations where I currently work.
Carrie, maybe this is a good time for you to tell our audience a little bit more about Open House, a fantastic organization.
Yeah. So Open House is a San Francisco nonprofit that serves LGBTQIA older adults. And we have social programming, recreational programming to reduce isolation and loneliness. We have a friendly visitor program, which is a program, like I just mentioned, that sends friendly visitors, volunteers out to people's homes or out in the community to build relationships. People get set up with a volunteer and they end up becoming friends and stay together for years and kind of move beyond that volunteer community member relationship. We also have support services with case management, gender affirming case management, and resident case management in the 2 buildings that we own with Mercy Housing on Laguna Street in San Francisco, which are LGBTQ centering buildings for older adults. And we also have the first adult day program in the country for LGBTQ older adults that we have in partnership with another organization called Unlock.
Thank you.
I,
Thank you.
I think the
Here,
only thing that
Dottie?
I think the only thing I would add to what Carrie said regarding our community and how we are experience elder care is that a lot of folks don't expect to ever become old because especially in a trans community, the chance of dying young and the life expectancy is so low. And so often queer people, trans people find themselves surprised when they are old. And I think that it's a really kind of a forgotten need because, you know, growing old is such a privilege in so many ways, and it's not awarded to queer people in such a high rate.
Words to remember, growing old is a privilege. You're absolutely right about that. Deb, we'd love to see a clip from your film, The Day the Curtains Came Down, and maybe you could share a little bit about the significance of this particular clip.
Yeah,
And remind our audience, if you have questions, please put them in the chat, okay?
yeah, so this is a longer clip that I use to apply for grants. And I'm kind of tending to some of the things that have arisen when people hear about the film I'm making. Things like, why would I want to watch a movie about someone with Alzheimer's? And why would you tell a story about Phyllis Lyon when she did so much amazing stuff in her life? Why would you show her in this state? So I feel like the film sort of I'm trying to show that it's not a sad film. It's a humorous, creative.
Yes.
Yeah, there's some sadness. Of course, there's pain when there's loss, but overall, it was an amazing adventure, I think, probably for all of us. And really, she gave us so much as well. So I don't think that quite comes through yet. It will in the future, how much she gave us. But
Mhm.
I do try to sort of show some of the creativity and the joy. And also, there's a scene with her and her sister where you can see her sister is the only person who she remembered her name until the end. She didn't know our names, or she never knew my name. It would fly in and out. So, she knew I was vegan and that she was a lion and she needed meat and so that we could never get married. And she would say that to me often. But she didn't remember my name. But she remembered her sister's name. And so there's a scene I include because it sort of shows little snapshots of her Alzheimer's, basically. So that's at the end. And then the story of the day the curtains came down explains why we call the movie that.
Yes.
So I will share it now. Mm.
This is a story about uncommon kindness and commitment to an icon.
This is really a story about being Phyllis's friend in the end, you know? Oh gosh, it's an unorthodox friendship, but it was a friendship nonetheless.
This is a story about Phyllis Lyon.
My sister is the very extremely, notably well-known Phyllis Lyon. To Phyllis from Daddy, January 6th, 1928. So I was 4. Chapter 1. Here is Edward Bear coming downstairs on his butt. Now, bump, on the back of, as far as he knows, the only way of coming down. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to introduce you. Winnie the Pooh.
After Della's death, we felt very concerned about how Phyllis would do.
I watched Phyllis diminish mentally.
I would have some task that I needed to be completed, and I would dread it. Never that I didn't love her or care about her, but I was intimidated and nervous and didn't like to be yelled at either. And then it became clear that Phyllis was needing more help and that it was going to be tricky because Phyllis is so fiercely independent. She felt she could do it on her own. For her safety and our peace of mind, we needed more people until we grew it to the 24/7 caregiver group that we have now, these incredible people who just love and support her and take such good care of her and allow her to be at home.
We never called ourselves caregivers in front of her, that we were always friends visiting, which was also not entirely untrue because we were all in similar community. It was the reason why it worked. It was also the reason why she got to keep her dignity, because she was around a bunch of people who could tell dirty queer jokes and talk about politics and were interested in the same things that she was interested in. That's the whole reason that it worked.
Hi Phyllis, it's Carrie.
It's because it wasn't an institutional model, it was a community model, which is wildly different from one another.
In the beginning, it was definitely like, you're at the gate in The Wizard of Oz, right? Like you made it to Oz and there's like the dude at the door with the mustache being like, yeah, why do you belong here?
The whole range of rejection.
I mean, I just felt like I was in the lowest stakes spy movie.
You would sneak up the side of the house and look in the kitchen window, and there's this moment where you can lean forward enough to see her, but you're not visible enough that if she looked over, she probably wouldn't see you.
Bill, can you see me?
Getting into her house was probably, I would say, the biggest ordeal that I had to like regularly deal with. Many times where I had to sneak in at nighttime. So I'd have to watch, wait for the light to go out, give her enough time that she's in bed, and then I'd have to sneak into her house. Coming up to the door, having to unlock this very old lock that, you know, it's like once you get it to go, it like snaps. Thunk, you know, having to do that like ever so quietly. Now I have to creak this door open. And she's a force to be reckoned with when she's angry. There were times when she must have heard me, and then she would come downstairs, turn the light on, be like, what are you doing here? Oh, you invited me to spend the night. I'm just making my bed on the couch. You would believe me, but you could tell there's something in her that's like, no, I didn't. At a certain point, I would have to go upstairs into the bathroom and I would have to take care of like dentures. Sometimes my heart would be racing, like ever so slowly, going up the stairs in the pitch dark. To kind of learn how to move up the stairs silently. So slightly, like, it like made little noises and you'd be like, ooh, did you hear that?
You had to do a lot of stuff behind her back.
I am helping this person stay in reality by inventing what reality is.
What we started doing was putting water in her Sutter Home Chardonnay. You know, once we had kind of weaned her off, we started relabeling the bottles of non-alcoholic wines. And so we printed out all these Sutter Home labels, the front and the back, on label paper and would put them on in a way that she wouldn't notice.
You need to be a creative person to work with someone who has dementia, and you need to love them.
We wanted a view. And I don't think that monster over there was there when we bought it. Mm-hmm. They built it later.
There's definitely a story that Phyllis would find different ways to tell over and over again.
I love the curtain story so much.
And it was always the same and a little bit different.
So the curtain story is something that we all heard from Phyllis.
It was about the curtain that used to cover her living room window.
It was always told to me by Phyllis, like, on the later side of the evening. Often it would be around the time that she was going to bed or right before, and she would often say like, oh, I hope you're gonna be comfortable sleeping here tonight. I hope the sun doesn't wake you up.
Oh, honey, I hope the light didn't wake you up.
You know, we used to have curtains on the windows.
We'd be looking at the skyline. We used to have curtains on this window. And she would bring it up in different ways. Even just like walking up the
stairs.
She would stop mid-stair.
And she'd like point.
We used to have curtains on this window.
And you know, that's because we used to have parties.
We had meetings here and dances here where women danced with women. And the way that she would say it was with such like devilish delight, right? Imagine that, women dancing with women. You could tell that she just really loved that moment in her life.
And you know, it would take a different form kind of every time. And
Phyllis would explain that the curtains needed to be drawn because women would be wearing men's clothes or they were seen canoodling together, which was like illegal before Phyllis was, you know, in charge, right? There would be a moment where she would be like, but now we don't have any curtains, and we haven't had curtains in years because now women can dance with women. Knowing Phyllis and knowing her history and seeing her library and seeing her art, there was lots of different types of dancing that went on in that room, I'm sure.
Trisha?
Come on in. I'm in the living room, sweetie.
And we're going to go to the left. To the left. All right.
I was going right. Hi, gorgeous. Oh, I love those raccoons. You're looking great, kiddo. You do, sweetheart. Well, we're lions. I know all about roaring lions.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Tell me about roaring lions.
Yeah, lions felines and I don't think.
Yeah.
We have, yeah, lots of cats. The cuties. Merry Christmas. 10/14. 2014. Is that this Christmas?
Oh, that's several Christmases ago.
Oh, okay.
We're 2019. Next year will be 2020.
Oh, that ought to be screwy.
Yeah.
Hello, cutie. It needs a little bit more, well, maybe to get its tail
No,
down.
it's fine.
I wouldn't mind a little glass of milk, but also uh, some of the other stuff too.
Okay, perfect.
That's everything.
Soup.
And I got polio. And
Well, I didn't.
no, dear. Oh, okay. I couldn't move anything.
Yeah.
I could move fingers a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And Phyllis looked at me in that sisterly fashion she has. No, not that one. and she said, you know, you're not the only person that this is affecting. And snapped out of it.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And
Sweet of you.
are the reason that I came out of the whole thing, kiddo.
She's in the kitchen.
She is?
Yep, she's loading the dishwasher.
You mean my sister?
Your sister Trisha is here, in here, loading the dishwasher.
She will be back shortly.
No, I have 2:30.
I'll take you home a little bit later, whenever you're ready.
Oh, you're a sweetie.
Yes. Too bad you don't have any nice people around you. Turn around.
Oh, I didn't know you were sitting there still. You gotta say.
Well, that's the way I am these days. Love you, sweetie.
I loved you too.
And
Since
I
the time
really-
you came into this place, into this world,
Well,
I've loved you.
and I love you. And I would never have made it had it not been for you, kiddo.
You think so?
Yep. Right. I hope so.
I will make that happen.
Keep in touch. You know where I am, so if
Definitely.
So many people feel like the only way to survive is singularly. And Phyllis taught me that, yeah, you can think that. And it can be important for you to think that, but it's not possible. It's not possible. We are a community of individuals that are connected to one another, and we will be forced to rely on each other.
And whenever a fly came and settled on his nose, he had to blow it off And I think, but I am not sure, that that is why he was always called Pooh. Oh, dear. Is that the end of the story? Asked Christopher Robin. That's the end of that one. There are others.
Thank you, Deb. I think that gives us a very touching snapshot of what Phyllis was like, as well as the kinds of things caregivers needed to navigate. I think I have a question for all of you. And Carrie, were the caregivers trained in some of this stealth, the creeping in, the not upsetting her, or was that just really people using their good common sense about and kindness, and they're wanting to be kind to her? How did you all manage to make all that happen?
Yeah, so there was training in the beginning when somebody came on as a caregiver, and everybody, myself included, but everybody would kind of share what was currently working.
Mhm.
They knew, and everybody on the team was very creative at getting back in the house when she would throw you out because she'd kind of had enough of company. And
Mhm.
but there was definitely along the way things that we learned that we all shared with one another, that we would send on an email thread. Oh, today this happened. Here's how
Mhm.
I dealt with it. Um, so yeah, the sort of like sneaking around the back of the house was definitely something everybody shared with one another as a way to keep an eye on her when she wasn't interested in having company, or other places around
Mhm.
the house where you could kind of catch her to make sure she was okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Very, very creative, I think, and very wise in really wanting to be as respectful as you could be of her, but also do the caregiving that needed to happen. So all of you were part of Phyllis's last mile, and I'm wondering what you think was the greatest takeaway for you as her caregivers, and anything that you learned about yourself. Go ahead, Deb.
I'll go first because I also just want to make one comment about the clip that I shared. Um, that to Phyllis, we all blended together in some ways. She knew us individually. Like I think she knew our essence. She would get to know your essence and relate to you differently. But but we were kind of like, I think it was Tommy who said a kaleidoscope of people to her, and we can literally finish each other's sentences about like when the curtain story is done and I weave all of the voices in.
Mhm.
um, so I just want to say, like, I couldn't choose, like everybody says you need one or two people. Everybody wanted to be in it, all the caregivers that were there at the end. And so I chose to sort of blend. So when one person is
Mhm.
talking, you might see another person. So that's why sometimes I do get asked that, and I forgot to mention that before, why you hear one person, but you see somebody else,
Yeah,
because for her, we were kind of blended.
yeah. Thank you for that.
But about my takeaway, I mean, I had a lot of takeaways, but I think in a really visceral way, I really got to feel how every stage of life is important and sacred,
Mhm.
and how much someone with Alzheimer's, how much Phyllis still had to give. Um, and for me, I didn't ever have any relationships with elders that were really safe. And Phyllis was very safe. You could tell her anything.
Mhm.
So I feel like she healed something in me and taught me so much. So those
Yeah.
were my takeaways.
Dottie, any thoughts about a greatest learning, and what you learned about yourself in this process?
I think what I learned most about, I mean, again, it's hard because there's so many things to
Mhm.
learn in so many different categories. But specifically, I hadn't known so much about dementia and Alzheimer's.
Mhm.
And I think what I learned the most is that, there is no arguing. You can't change their point of view for something. Literally, we're having a heat wave in San Francisco. It's 90 degrees, and Phyllis is insisting on putting the heat on, only because it's what she does every morning. So she's used to doing every morning. So instead of trying to convince her that the heat shouldn't be on, I just lower the heat, open the window, and it's like not necessarily about me being right or Phyllis understanding what reality is. It's more like us adopting to her world in order to make what we need to be accomplished. So, if I wanted her to take a shower, I wasn't going to try to convince her that she needed to take a shower because of any reason with her. I would find someone that she trusted to blame it on. Dr. Neck says that you need to take a shower because he's coming over to do a skin test at 2:00. And like, I would just make up whatever needed to be convincing. And if that didn't work, I'd try something else in 15 minutes. So that's what's really great about, especially the type of dementia that Phyllis had, is that you could restart again in 15 minutes and try again.
Yes.
But sometimes she would also remember something from hours and hours before, so there was no kind of predictability. I think that's what I learned the most about from the situation. And about myself, I saw so much of myself in Phyllis and her stubbornness and her independence. And I know that my like situation will never be in the way where I can have 24-hour care. So it's a good lesson to learn now that like your independence, as much as you want it, will not always be there for any number of reasons. And I think that's probably what I learned most about myself, is like needing to relinquish to the process of life.
Harry?
Yeah, yeah, I like, Dottie, what you said about the interdependentness. It definitely sort of drove home for me the need for interdependence, whether we like it or not. A lot of people, especially as we age, we really try to hold on to things that we maybe did in our 20s and 30s and 40s, and have to let go of. And that's a big emotional process. But at the end of the day, we always need each other. It's not just because we can't it's because we are, in fact, interconnected, and we need community. We're social creatures. One of the other things I learned about her is that it felt like an honor to help her die and to help her in her last moments, and in the ways that I was involved, just being able to assist caregivers that were there, being able to talk to the hospice team, kind of be the liaison for family and friends. And it really led to a path of learning more about being a death doula and wanting that to be part of my trajectory. It felt really special to help her in her last weeks and days, and then even after she passed away, when we got her ready for her memorial that had to be on Zoom because it was April of 2020, and everybody was trying to figure out
Yes.
what it meant to not be able to gather. We'd had this plan for many years about what was going to happen when she passed away, and her house was going to be part of the memorial site where people in the community, both people that were close to her and people that respected her in community, were going to be able to come and grieve together, and we couldn't. And so it felt like an honor to also prepare her for kind of last debut, and make
Yes.
sure that she had her lipstick on, which she always wore, even when she didn't know a lot else about what was going on. She always put her lipstick on before she left the house. And so it was an honor to get her ready for that moment.
A gift, right?
Yeah.
To be able to be a caregiver is really a gift. Yeah. So I can think of many reasons that this film is so important for people to see, but I was curious about what made you, why was it so important for you to make the film? And what do you think what are you hoping the audience will take away from seeing?
So for me, at first it started with me just taking some little iPhone videos and then thinking, is this ethical? I'm not sure. I should check with her family. And then her family asked, can you make a documentary? And at first they just wanted something really simple, and I'm like, why don't we do it for real? And so I think the importance, and I can say that Kendra, their daughter, really thinks she becomes very emotional about it. It's very, very important to her um, to keep her moms alive. And our history, the people who created the community for us is one reason. I think the model of care, and probably Carrie can speak more about this, but that they developed was unique and doesn't just apply for queer folks. I know a Vietnamese person who had to put his mom in, and nobody in the home spoke Vietnamese. And it's
Right.
like if she could have only had culturally competent care, it equates in different ways. So I think those are a couple of the main reasons to show a different model of care, something that is possible and possible in many different ways. As I was interviewing a couple, a lesbian couple, they said that they had a friend who didn't have the money but to hire 24-hour care, but they had another friend who needed a place to stay. And so they just told the person who didn't have the money, oh, can she rent a room from you without her knowing? So they worked it out in their own sort of way. So
Right.
I think there's many ways that this can be worked out. And we do plan to have templates on the website on what worked and what didn't work for us. And it's different for different people. But I think that's my 2 cents.
Carrie or Dottie, film important to you? Because
I mean, sure, absolutely. I have like no personal stake in the film in that way, but I think that uh, for me it's like would be the oddest thing in the world for someone not to know who Phyllis Lyon is. So I do think there needs to be, you know, an importance to her life and her accomplishments. But that's done in a lot of different ways through Lyon Martin, like Carrie mentioned earlier. And I think that this film is very specific about like the dignity and respect that you can offer someone in a similar situation. So it is about Phyllis, but it's also about anyone who might be on either side of aging.
Yeah. Carrie, something to add?
Yeah, I think, what Deb said about people saying to her that why would anybody want to watch a film about somebody with Alzheimer's? That's why it needs to be made, because there is, Alzheimer's and dementia are not the end
Right.
for people. That everybody's journey is different, and some people's is, obviously much harder and than others, but it's because there's so much stigma around dementia and people sort of ending their life at that diagnosis. And this film also offers a different journey that, Phyllis had a lot of struggles in her dementia, but she also experienced a lot of joy every single day because we were able to be in the moment with her. And I think part of making up the stories was also part of allowing her to keep her dignity. And I think that's okay, if the untruths are for the purpose of somebody's dignity in moments where they don't remember much about their life. And so this film is about that too, and about how people can cobble together systems of care through community. And we don't have to rely on institutions. Institutions are not always there to serve us well.
Right.
And so it offers another creative solution for people who can.
Well, I'm sure I wasn't the only person that was smiling so much through the film. There is a lot of joy, a lot of lessons for all of us to take away and to apply. But the humor and the creativity of all of you and all the other caregivers. So when will this be released, Deb?
So the goal is for Frameline, which is the San Francisco Pride. It happens during San Francisco Pride in June 2027. So that means we have to complete it by December 2026.
All right. All right. Something to look forward to.
Thank you.
So Sophie, are there any questions in the chat that we should be answering?
Sure. There is so much love in the chat. You should, if you get a chance to take a quick look in the chat, folks who knew Phyllis and knew about her work or them as a couple. A couple of questions, and I know we don't have much time. One question is, were there any people that were not part of the LGBTQIA community or family allies that were part of the care team?
There was a couple people.
But that would make them an ally.
But they were allies. Yeah. Yeah. So there wasn't anybody that wasn't an ally or LGBTQ plus. Yeah.
Patty asks, how did you manage the challenges to the lack of accessibility outside and within her house?
Yes, I noticed the stairs.
You know, those stairs kept her being able to walk because she did them every single day of her life. She went down and got the paper every single morning. It was part of her morning ritual. And so she was able to navigate the outside stairs for most of her life when she couldn't anymore. She only had to navigate the inside stairs, which was about 6, and there was 2 railings, and she was, for the most part, able to do that. Sometimes we would have to stand behind her and just make sure she didn't fall. They also had a chair lift that they had 2 different chair lifts from the first set of stairs and then the second set of stairs, but she didn't end up having to use that very often. That was originally built for Dell when she was unable to utilize the stairs anymore.
I also think with Phyllis's type of dementia, like I remember like a week or 2 before she passed and she and I were together and she really could not walk the stairs. And we were hanging out only on that upper floor, which is where her kitchen and her bathroom and her bedroom were. So it was perfectly comfortable. There was a time she was like, she couldn't remember that she couldn't use the stairs. She couldn't, and there was also no convincing her that she couldn't use the stairs. So I would stand in front of her and I would say, okay, if you're going to use the stairs, I'm going to stand right here and we'll see what happens, right? And then she would try to use the stairs and she would then be convinced that she needed to sit down or what have you. Same with the shower. There were no handrails in the shower or anything like that. I think for the most part, she avoided situations. So she would avoid showers. And then it kind of fell on the caregivers to be creative about that. Like, I think 9 times out of 10, that meant that I was also getting in the shower. So, and that's just kind of, it's just kind of what we did. So she did use her cane, and she would ask for her cane. But sometimes she would not want to use her cane, and I would just kind of slide it into her hand, and then she would use it.
Well,
clever.
Thank you so much. You're getting more love here. And I think everyone will agree that there's so much creativity, but so much love that's you've all expressed in your conversation today, as well as in the film. I'm going to turn it back to Anne now to close this out. Thank you.
Thanks, Sophie. So I want to thank each of you so much, Deb, Carrie, Dottie, for being on the program today and for sharing a sneak preview of our upcoming film, your upcoming film. For the audience, if you'd like to learn more about the film, I'm going to give you some places that you can click on, and they'll also be in the chat, so you'll be able to see them there. So all of these are the https:// the day the curtains came down, that's all one word, the day the curtains came down.com. And if you'd like to learn more about Open House, go to www.openhousesf.org. That's www.openhousesf.org. If you're interested in learning about AERP's resources for older adults who are LGBTQ plus community, go to www.aarp.org/voices/LGBTQ and another slash at the end of that. If you want to learn, I told you there'd be a lot of these, so here we go. If you want to learn more about the film, visit thedaythecurtainscamedown.com. Again, thedaythecurtainscamedown.com. So I'm hoping that some of those links will be good for you. We had a lot of folks joining us today, a lot of folks from different parts of the country. I'm hoping all of you found this as interesting as I did, and I'm sure you're all looking forward to seeing the film. Thank you for being part of today's program. Again, I'm Ann Hinton, and it was a delight to be your host. This concludes the program, and have a great Friday.